So good afternoon everyone, very good to see people here, come back after the lunch break. And I'd like to open up the presentation that I'm offering with a simple question in your mind. What is competition and where does it come from? Is it something we're born with or is it something we learn? So my approach is fundamentally from a learning process because I'm an educator. First and foremost, I've studied how to teach science and maths and the processes of learning and how we learn things on a daily basis. The current learning model that we have adopted in the West is based on an Aristotelian model, but it's a corrupted one because the Aristotelian model was slightly different to the one we have used both now and for the past few centuries. It's based on 3 steps. The first is called induction, where we put information into someone. That's an imprinting process, it's a patterning process. The second one is eduction, where the word education comes from. It means to pull out of. It means that the person who's doing the pulling out is the mentor. We call them teachers. And the whole process is based on assuming that the teacher understands their work and is developed enough. And the last step that we employ in the West is called reduction. We reduce things to a common factor, a common denominator, because we have a very specific goal and objective. The original Aristotelian model was based on the first 2 factors, where you put information into a person, you extract the information, but the last step is the most important. You create space to allow the person to come to their own conclusions. It's called deduction, where they learn how to deduce for themselves by creating an opportunity for them to understand and learn through their own mistakes. The impact of this model on the learning process is that it's a teacher-centered teaching process. So the student does not learn about themselves as a person. Students are imprinted and conditioned according to an agenda called the curriculum. The educed information by the mentors is to offer prescribed, contrived answers according to expectations based on past outcomes. That means other people's experiences. And this leads to preconditioned programmed responses. That's the reduction element, where the results are predictable, controllable, and repeatable. The student-centered learning model creates a possibility for the student to deduce a situation through direct experience themselves. Yet the results are spontaneity, originality, and true creativity. That's the foundation of real science. The focus is on whole self-development, leading to a more balanced understanding of self, health, and life. Formal education. This is based on structured, ordered, logic and reasoning programs. The foundation of the industrial first world nations has influenced all countries on the planet today toward this way of learning, and it's based on putting things into categories, separating them, the need to prove and validate, leading to criticism and judgment. Non-formal education. That's basically everything else that we learn. It's more organic, creative, and intuitive. Amorphous means it doesn't necessarily have specific form. All indigenous peoples on the planet function according to this model. This model is in alignment with and follows natural law and leads to more inner awareness and co-working. Process of learning. The Socratic method took education together with pedagogics and morphosis into account, where education is what we've defined already. Pedagogics is guiding the inner child, working with the natural, essential self, and the morphosis is the process of what you will become, what you develop or evolve into. All 3 have to be taken into consideration at the same time, because we are made, in essence, of all 3 of these different parts. applying this to the model of sport, we look at challenge, games, and self-development, where challenge is very important because it offers or represents discipline. But if this discipline is inverted and you challenge yourself, you don't understand or you forget the purpose of games. Games are what children play for creativity, spontaneous response to daily stimuli. And then that leads to self-development. That is our evolution. So all three are very important to be present in a balanced way, and not that the challenge takes over and ends up becoming self-competition. We've got case studies here. Extracts of the following articles have been taken as examples of the impact of competitive modes of operating in different life situations. The first one is cooperativeness and competitiveness in children, where there was a task set. There's a sample of children between 9 to 12 years old in 2 different countries, Colombia and Sweden. There's a correlation between how children either cooperate or they compete with each other. And it's called the prisoner's dilemma, where children were rewarded if they co-worked with each other. Then they were also encouraged to compete with each other to see if they can win more tokens or money. So in the end, the result indicated that there was no consistent relationship between cooperativeness and competitiveness. And when this was applied to mathematics, it showed that the more competitive you became, the less you performed well in mathematics learning. Then we look at competitiveness as a moderator of the relation between the appearance-related factors and disordered eating behaviors. So, fundamental saying is that when a person is trying to achieve an ideal in their physical form, it actually creates eating disorders. And the relationship is that the more they compete with each other to try to exercise or diet to lose weight, it gets worse for them, and they end up not losing weight. In fact, some of them put on more weight. So that's what the results of all of this researchers, University of North Carolina, earlier this year, January 2016. The next one is a baseline cortisol moderates testosterone reactivity in women. What we're saying here is that women athletes, saliva samples were taken before and after their competition, and that they saw that there was an increase in cortisol, a high cortisol level. So, what we're observing here is a connection to the human-organism interface. We see that the psychomental aspect of ourselves has an impact on the nervous system. The psycho-emotional impacts our endocrine system. And the psychophysical is a combination of all four, the neuro, immuno, endocrine, and the body electric, without which we cannot obviously function. And all of these together defines our current life state. We cannot take any one of them individually. We need to observe and take all into consideration at the same time. Autosynergy, a new model toward self-co-working. When we start with something, conception, it's influenced by our external environment. That means gravity, electromagnetic frequencies, radio waves, pollutants, everything has an impact which creates conception in our minds. This then creates a reception through our brain, our senses, the cells in our body, the water in our body. This leads to perception, the way we see and experience life. Then it impacts our survival instinct, territoriality, which is both physical and mental. That's the ownership of what we think we own. That's physical and mental, our property. This then affects our routine patterns that we need, because if things change every day, we have a difficulty in adapting. And this leads to a lifestyle, obviously, new information towards evolution. So we need these changes to stimulate our ability to move forward and evolve. Finally, adaptation, which is dependent on adoption. You've got to adopt this information based on an identification of existing references in yourself. That translates into information toward what Professor Noskin calls a dynamic homeostasis not the way it's been presented in biological books that homeostasis looks like. It's static. You reach a level and you stay there. No, we are constantly adapting to external stimuli. That's what life's all about. So finally, we need to integrate our thoughts, our senses, our feelings, our body electric and our external stimuli into our physical organism. SciArt-Met, the science-art-metaphysics interface. What is it about? The inner scientist, or the will to search, leading to inner inquiry. The inner artist in response to inspiration, leading to inner creativity. The inner metaphysicist, asking the purpose and reason of existence itself.
Toward a future solution, integrated learning model is required based on self-development involving scientific principles and methodologies, wisdom traditions, allopathic and traditional medicine, the study of these, movement and meditation practices, and learning, communication, and cooperation skills based on inclusion. In other words, interconnectivity, how all phenomena in life are connected. I deal with health and wellness and teaching this to people every single day, both here in Russia and in other countries. I have a clinic and a teaching centre in London. It's been there for many years. And I'm observing that people are going through a very unique type of breakdown at the moment. And one of the main causes for all of this is this illusion that we are all separated. And people are becoming more and more separated from within themselves as a result of the technology that we are using. And they're losing their communication skills and their ability to open and speak from the heart with awareness and responsibility. So somehow we need to find a way where we can improve this and begin to reverse the cycle of becoming more machine-like, which is what's been happening at least over the past 10 years from my observation of what's been happening in big cities and in particularly high technologically driven countries. Thank you everyone.